I'm going to show you a graph here, how some things are put together without the understanding of how they've written things. It talks about the Alpha and the Omega, that being, well, they say that it's God, but it's here's the Alpha and the Omega. It says the Alpha is the first and the last. So the Alpha is first, the Omega is the last. So it says, I am the Alpha and the Omega, the first and the last. If we look at this picture that I drew here, here's a circle. Okay? A circle is called a cycle. A sine wave is nothing more than if I took this circle and I took the two halves and I flipped one end over the other, and it would look like the letter S. Okay, then you turn that on your side and it makes a sine wave. Okay, so the Alpha and Omega, when you're talking about electricity and you talk about 60 cycles, that's 60 cycles or 60 circles per minute. Okay? Or per second, I'm sorry. So when this says the Alpha and Omega, when you deal with electricity, you know, there's a thing that's called Ohm's Law. You ever seen the Hindu guy sitting there going, Ohm, Ohm? There's a thing called Ohm's Law. So let's look at this circle, which is really a sine wave. So here's the alpha A, which is the green circle. It's a point on this bigger circle. A circle is 360. All right, so that's a time. That's one time. Okay? So here's the alpha. The circle here would be the omega. Okay, which would be the red circle. But it's just one circle. I just gave you two different colors. So when it says I am the alpha and omega, the first will be last and the last will be first. As we go around, by the time we get down, going in this direction as the arrows show, by the time we get here, the first is still the first, but by the time he gets up here, which he is now, I've colored red, he's no longer the first, he's the last, because he's in the last position. So the last will be first, because once he crosses this midway point, the last becomes first, and when he crosses this midway point, the first has become last. This doesn't take away from the creator himself. I'm trying to explain to you, they wrote this in terms. Hang on, I got a neighbor coming over. Hang on one second. I don't know what the hell this broad wants. In black and purple. What is it? I swear, I live in the middle of Spook Central. I swear to God, the kids around here running around in black and purple. The broad that just put the flyer on the door was wearing black and purple. I see people driving to work here wearing... I'm telling you, I'm in the middle of Spook Central. The post office has got a big-ass 8-foot demon across the street, which is now mysteriously gone. That doesn't matter. I'm moving anyway. But the bottom line is, look, here's what the bottom line is. So the first becomes the last. The Bible is written in many different formats. I'm telling you, it's coded. The Alpha and the Omega, Ohm's Law, sine waves, sin, all of this stuff. So the green circle, which is the alpha, remember, these two circles are the same circle. I just made two of them and made them different colors. So as this green circle moves through here, he's still first until he crosses this center line. Now, because this is the starting point, he's behind the starting point, so now he's last. And by the time he gets up here, he's last. So now the first has become last. When this red circle crosses and becomes green again, the last has become first. The Bible is written in many, many different formats. There's a lot of chemistry and a lot of electrical, how do I put it? A lot of hinting towards electrical schematics and the way that circuits work. So the first has become last, the last has become first. The alpha and the omega. Go look up Ohm's Law and they'll show you. I believe it's the horseshoe looking. That's the Ohm's. Is that the omega? I think that's the omega or the alpha or whatever. It's one of the two. Well, you know, why are they using that? You know, it's because that's what it is. So this, I'm just giving you, this is like a little tutorial to show you how many different ways this book is written. It's a fascinating book full of all kinds of stuff. But it doesn't mean that there's not encoded stuff in there that was put in there aside from a message of being good and doing the right and proper thing. To think that that's all that book is there for is ludicrous, because the Jews use it, the first 5 books, to figure out all kinds of high physics that they use in Kabbalah. Okay, Kabbalah was used in the Christian church up until the 18th century. That was part of it. So, you know, you better get off your high fucking horse thinking that the Bible is strictly, you know, written one way, because it's not. It doesn't take away from anybody's faith in Jesus Christ, because that whole story is a completely different thing, yet it deals with all of this stuff. So there's nothing wrong with believing in Jesus Christ as your Savior and understanding that the Bible is written on multi levels, just the way when Jesus spoke. He spoke on multiple levels at one time in the same exact story. And what did I tell you? If you want to convey a story without it being blemished and or tarnished, you encode the story in a story. And only the people that will, as Jesus said, look, you're going to either get my parables or you won't. Because those that would understand did understand. They do that in news stories. That's what your news is. When they encode it, what do you think all those numbers are? Those guys are speaking in numbers. They're showing you a landmark, but they're speaking in numbers. That's what all of this is about. Why do you think the Bible has a book called the Book of Numbers? You know, and then the last book of the Bible is Revelations, which is like a revolution, which is a circle or a beginning or a new start. And the end times, people say it's the end times. Did you ever stop to think maybe it's the letter N? The end times? Go look up what end times is and see if that fits anywhere in that quantum format. You're dealing with, you're looking outside of the fucking blade of grass. Do you know how amazingly all this was put together? The best way to put it together in one single sentence is exactly the way it's quoted. I am. Because that encompasses all of this stuff. Just like MC squared is the relativity, the theory of relativity by Einstein is MC squared. I think it's 4 or 5 little symbols. Thousands and thousands of volumes of information. The same thing with the Bible, which is thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands and billions of bits of information. And the best way to summarize it is I am. It's the whole fucking gamut in one thing. The physical, the spiritual, the emotional, the electrical. All of it, the imaginary, all of it, all combined into one thing in I am. That's what I am is. That's what it means. It's just like MC Square. Not MC Hammer, that's the black dude that dances, who, by the way, wears pants that are way too big. And I believe he's broke. Yes, he is. And he became a pastor. Funny how that works out when these guys that get all this mega money and all of a sudden they go broke, they go running back to the Lord, who they were never really involved with to begin with. I don't know. I don't get it.